He was fixing a power line but ended up exposing a neighborhood spy network. The wail of police sirens cut through the scorching afternoon. Red and blue lights flickered, reflecting off the sweat-drenched face of Malcolm Jones, a black man standing in his yard, his laptop open, one hand still gripping his wire cutters. He turned around, stunned. 3 patrol cars had surrounded his modest home. An officer shouted, "Step away from the device. Put your hands up." Malcolm complied, his eyes betraying confusion. He was simply checking his home's electrical system, but someone seemed to think he was committing a crime. Neighbors peered from behind curtains. Some raised phones, others whispered, "What's going on now?" Little did they know that in just a few minutes, this seemingly absurd misunderstanding would lead them to a shocking revelation, a technology conspiracy hidden within their quiet neighborhood. And the person they suspected would become the only one brave enough to unveil the truth. Malcolm Jones, 33 years old, lived alone on the outskirts of Ridgefield, Texas, a small, peaceful neighborhood where people knew everyone by face except him. He worked as an independent electrician, having formerly served as an engineer for an energy company. But after layoffs, he chose to go solo. Malcolm's life was so simple that his home was always filled only with the hum of his welding machine, the faint burnt smell of electrical wiring, and old jazz drifting from a battered radio. He did not socialize much. He did not attend weekend barbecues, and he did not gossip on the front porch. For Malcolm, silence was his way of staying steady in a world that sometimes felt too loud. But that very quiet drew the sharp attention of one neighbor, Nancy Whitmore. Nancy was a retired teacher, living with her grandson in the White House 2 doors down from Malcolm's. She was the kind of person who firmly believed that the neighborhood's safety depends on each resident's vigilance. People called her Ridgefield's living camera because nothing escaped her eyes, from someone mowing the lawn late to someone parking in the wrong spot. Nancy was polite by nature, but in her mind, Malcolm always represented something different. A black man, living quietly, speaking little, tinkering outside with technology she could not understand. In Nancy's mind, difference equated danger. That hot afternoon, Malcolm crouched beside a utility pole, plugging his laptop into the control box for the smart grid. Recently, his house had experienced recurrent power surges, weak Wi-Fi, and security cameras that turned on by themselves at night. He suspected a fault somewhere in the neighborhood's electrical system, so he attempted to trace it. The laptop screen displayed streams of odd data, a signal being interfered with. From a second-floor window, Nancy squinted through her binoculars. A black man, plugging the laptop into a power pole. To her, that scene was enough to light up every alarm in her mind. Nancy put her hand to her phone, her voice trembling yet resolute, as she dialed 911. "He's doing something weird with the wires. I think he's trying to shut off the power." Malcolm, still hunched over, unaware, had no idea that in mere minutes the sound of sirens would erupt. And at that moment, a small misunderstanding born of fear would pull back the curtain on a massive secret lurking beneath the houses that seemed most peaceful. 2 police cars ground to a halt, dust swirling about. Officer Ramirez, a Latin American, voice low and gaze steady, stepped out first. Behind him came Detective Carter, a white man with a stern face and eyes cold as steel. Nancy rushed from behind her gate, pointing. "That's him. He's been tampering with the lines all week." Malcolm remained frozen in place, both hands raised, his voice calm, steady. "Officers, I'm a certified electrician. I was just investigating a power anomaly." Carter frowned. "With a laptop?" Malcolm nodded gently. "This grid is smart controlled. If someone's hacking it, I must trace the signal." Nancy scoffed. "Oh please. Next you'll say aliens did it." Ramirez glanced at Malcolm's laptop display. Streams of data scrolled, showing a host of strange devices connected to the same power network, one name standing out. Ridgefield_Hub_01. Ramirez asked softly, "What is that?" Malcolm zoomed in on the data window. "I do not know, but it is accessing both the power system and my security cameras without authorization." Carter stepped closer, half skeptical. He saw the access logs, many different IP addresses, matching houses throughout the neighborhood. Malcolm continued, his voice firm but controlled. "Someone is using this smart electric system to surveil people. It is not just sending data, it is also receiving commands." A hush fell. Nancy, uneasy, had not yet admitted she might be wrong. Ramirez looked at Carter and nodded. "Maybe we should take a closer look." Malcolm expanded his data dashboard, revealing every access point, every compromised camera. He operated swiftly, precisely, like a true expert. Carter squinted, beginning to realize. This man was not the suspect. He might be the only one who understood what was happening. And in that instant, prejudice began to crack. A man suspected because of his skin color was opening the door to a real conspiracy, a spy network of technology hidden in the very neighborhood everyone believed to be safe. Inside Malcolm's small house, the air felt thick and heavy. The scent of burned wiring mingled with the dim glow from his laptop screen. Ramirez and Carter leaned in close, watching line after line of data flash by. Malcolm connected the electrical system to his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard like a seasoned programmer. On the screen, a map of Ridgefield appeared, each home marked by a glowing dot. One of those dots was flashing red, constantly transmitting data. "Here," Malcolm pointed at the red dot. "This is the source. It is accessing dozens of devices, security cameras, smart locks, and voice assistants across the neighborhood, including her house." Nancy stepped forward, frowning. "What do you mean, my house?" Malcolm typed a few quick commands. In a second, the screen displayed a lit-up kitchen, unmistakably Nancy's, filmed from a camera mounted on the fridge. Nancy froze, her lips trembled. "That's my kitchen, that's my house." Malcolm spoke calmly. "I started getting suspicious when my own cameras turned on in the middle of the night. Turns out, it wasn't just my house." Ramirez exchanged a serious look with Carter. They began tracing the IP addresses backward. The path led to another house in the same neighborhood, just a few doors down. The data stream stopped at a familiar address, 123 Maple Street. Nancy stammered. "No, that's Jason's place." Ramirez clarified. "Jason Whitmore. He's your nephew, right?" Nancy gave a faint nod, her face pale. Without hesitation, Carter called for backup. Minutes later, 2 more police cars arrived. The front door of Jason's house flew open after 3 firm knocks. Inside, a 22-year-old young man sat in front of a multi-monitor setup, his hands trembling as he tried to delete data. "Stop right there," Carter shouted. Jason panicked, but it was too late. Ramirez pulled the hard drive and plugged in a forensic scanner. The entire system unfolded before their eyes, spyware Jason had built himself, embedded into the smart grid, designed to hijack neighborhood cameras, record audio from microphones, and control household devices. "Why would you do this?" Carter asked. Jason stuttered, eyes welling with tears. "I just wanted to test what I could do. I never meant to hurt anyone." Malcolm looked at him, his gaze cold and heavy with sadness. "You didn't just test your skills, Jason. You violated everyone's safety. You turned trust into surveillance." Behind them, Nancy stood with both hands over her mouth, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The nephew she once proudly called a tech genius had become the one to invade an entire neighborhood's privacy, and because of her own fear. The first person she accused had been the only one capable of exposing the truth. The police sealed the equipment. Jason was handcuffed, his head hanging low. Nancy broke into tears, streaks rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. "Oh my God, I called the police on the wrong man." Malcolm stood silently, no satisfaction, no anger, only the weary expression of a man far too used to proving his innocence. Simply because of his skin color and quiet nature. Red and blue lights flickered outside the window. As the sound of police cars faded into the distance, one truth had never been clearer. Fear and prejudice nearly turned an innocent man into a criminal, and it was truth, delivered with calm and knowledge, that saved the entire neighborhood from an invisible surveillance network. The night wind swept through Ridgefield, carrying the flashing blue and red lights along the narrow street. Jason was led into a patrol car, wrists cuffed, head bowed. Nancy stood on the sidewalk, her hands trembling as she clutched an old knitted scarf. Detective Carter turned to Malcolm, his voice raspy. "You've done something big here, Mr. Jones. You stopped a real crime." Malcolm didn't respond right away. He glanced around. The houses were still lit, homes where neighbors had once watched him through drawn curtains with suspicion. Now they looked at him differently, silent, but with eyes filled with respect and a tinge of shame. He finally replied, "Funny, I was the one they called the cops on." Carter said nothing. Malcolm's words cut like a quiet blade through a truth they all recognized just hours ago. This could have gone a very different way. Nancy stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I judged you without even knowing you." Malcolm looked at her, his voice low, without bitterness. "Don't apologize to me, Nancy. Just learn. Next time, ask before you accuse." She nodded, her shoulders trembling. Malcolm simply stood there and gently closed his laptop. He didn't need praise. He didn't need to prove anything anymore. Because for him, justice wasn't about winning, it was about letting the truth come to light. Carter stepped up, extended a hand. "If you ever want a job in cyber investigations, we could use someone like you." Malcolm gave a slight chuckle, shaking his head. "I think I'll stick to fixing power lines, but thanks." Down the quiet street, the sound of police cars faded. Nancy remained on the sidewalk, watching Malcolm walk back into his home, his frame then, but upright and strong, like the belief that only understanding can dissolve fear. That night, for the first time in years, Ridgefield was truly silent. Not the silence of suspicion, but of awakening. The man once falsely accused had now become the one who saved the neighborhood. And the woman who once believed she was right had finally learned the hardest lesson: prejudice is never justice. 1 week later, Ridgefield had changed. New electrical lines were installed. The smart security system was rebuilt, this time, with Malcolm Jones helping lead the redesign. Neighbors began greeting him as he passed. No more wary glances, no more half-closed curtains. Nancy came to his house, holding a tray of warm apple pie. She hesitated, then smiled, the first real smile Malcolm had ever seen on her face. "Thank you for fixing not just the power, but this neighborhood," she said. Malcolm only gave a small nod, his eyes kind but distant. The narrator's voice came slow and full of emotion. "One man's calm truth exposed what fear tried to hide. Assumptions divide us, but understanding can protect us all." The screen faded to black, and text appeared. "If you have ever judged someone based on how they look, stop. Listen, watch, because sometimes the truth is right in front of us." In that moment, soft music began to rise, deep and warm, carrying a sense of hope. This was no longer a story about mistakes or skin color. It had become a story about people, and how we can choose to see each other through the eyes of understanding.